Independent MP Zali Steggall has introduced her bill to stop gas exploration off the east coast of Australia after the decision to cancel the project was essentially overturned. Joining me live now is the Independent MP Zali Steggall. Zali, thanks so much for your time. It seems that for the first time you have a lot in common with Scott Morrison.
We disagreed on a few issues, but he did at least do the right thing in terms of dismissing the application for PEP-11. For those that don't know, it's an application to drill for oil and gas off the east coast of Australia from Newcastle to Manly. And this is an area with huge economic reliance on tourism and our environment, and the communities are very opposed to it. So it was rejected by state government. Scott Morrison, acting as Resource Minister, rejected it as well. Unfortunately, that has been overturned now by consent in the court proceedings. So the pressure is on the Albanese government to reject it as they promised to do before the election.
Well, Scott Morrison, at the time when he was talking about his secret ministries or defending his secret ministries, said that this was all about saving fishing and surfing on the northern beaches. Do you really think PEP-11 is a risk to those two activities?
It is, because it covers an area of about 4,500 square kilometres, and it comes to within about 5 kilometres of the coast at points. Now, you need to remember this area of our coastline is incredibly populated and has a huge reliance on hospitality and tourism and fisheries as well. So all those industries are put at risk by this licence. And at the end of the day, you need social licence for projects like this to go ahead, and our communities are absolutely opposed. The previous Prime Minister recognised that. I think there was a little bit of political concern about seats along that coast, but we now have a situation where seats are either independent or Labor, and so it's very important for the current government to acknowledge that there is no social licence in our communities for this project.
Okay, the New South Wales election is fast approaching. We know the Teals are another threat this time around. Are you lending any of your support or advice to these Teal independents?
Well, look, it's interesting. It's an interesting contest coming up for the state election. Fairly different issues compared to federal. I think we have two components and issues rising up like gambling. We have strong independents running in Warringah. I have 3 independents running, and for me, look, I do feel that communities are better represented by independent voices, but most of all, the most important thing is for communities to feel that their views and values are represented. So I've urged everyone in my community to look to their members, maybe retiring members, and look at their options and, really engage with their vote, because you can't be a passenger in this day and age. You have to engage with who is representing you.
I just want to finish on what I thought was a really significant moment in the Parliament yesterday, and that was Peter Dutton apologising for boycotting the apology to the stolen generations. Now, this was well over a decade ago. What did you think of that apology? What was it like in the chamber?
Yeah, look, I think it's important that as Leader of the Opposition that he acknowledges that mistake that he made when the apology was delivered to Stolen Generations some 15 years ago. I was at the breakfast for the 15th anniversary of that apology, and it was an incredible step in our reconciliation process. But let's get real. The next step of our reconciliation process is this year with the referendum and constitutional recognition for us Indigenous Australians. So I do think for the Leader of the Opposition, it's a moment to reflect on maybe not making the same mistake again when it comes to this next step of reconciliation.
I don't know whether you have any power when it comes to this, or whether the independents in the House do, but I do find it strange in 2023, when we're looking at changing the Constitution, that there seems to be this big fight over whether to use pamphlets. I mean, in 2023, are pamphlets really going to be that effective? And surely we've evolved a little, if not digitally.
Absolutely, and the data shows that people do rely more and more on online communication and less on printed. But we have to be cognizant that there are people in our communities that do still like the printed material. So I think flexibility in delivery of the message is important. If not, we'll just end up with a whole heap of landfill of brochures that no one reads. So I am very worried about that aspect, but I think it's important that we have a respectful debate, that people have access to the information they need to make a decisive choice on this issue of constitutional recognition. So again, I don't think a one-size-fits-all works. Some communities will rely more on printed material and other communities more on digital content. So I think, again, we just need to make sure we do this well.